my pleasure to be talking to Randy Wolf from Campbell's Nursery and Garden Centers today about a really interesting new plant, or new to us, and production, and what really is going on in the megatropolis of Lincoln Garden Center world, and really across the state as you experience it, Randy.
I'm very happy to be here today.
So what is this plant that you are actually going to talk about? What is it?
Well, it's a small fruit, and it's not new, but it's just kind of an unknown plant. We oftentimes call it honeyberry, but if you start researching it, you find out it has a multitude of names. The scientific name is Lonicera caerula. Lonicera meaning that it's in the honeysuckle family, and caerula meaning that it's a very dark blue berry, which it is. And like a lot of berries and grapes, things like that, it does have a kind of a white film over it, a bloom as we would call it, that it just kind of adds to the color, and it's an easy one to grow, really.
So since it is easy, why have we not seen it in the retail market in this part of the state before?
It's been used in other parts of the world a lot, and now that we're seeing, another group of immigrants in here, they're wanting to grow it. It's native to the boreal forest, or the northern parts of the northern hemisphere, the cooler climates. And so, we don't think about something like that working in Nebraska. However, there's a lot of these in northern Japan, and Oregon State, a professor at Oregon State has done a lot of work, and she's developed some. They do pretty well in our latitudes, and so you're going to see more and more of it. It's very, very high in antioxidants, much higher than blueberries, and it has 3 times the amount of vitamin C that blueberries have. So it can sometimes resemble blueberries in flavor, but other people think it tastes more like a blackberry or even a raspberry. So you're going to get different opinions on the flavor.
So, and it's male and female plants, right? So you're going to have one of each to be able to get the fruit?
Not necessarily male and female, but you will get, on most varieties, you'll get much better pollination if you have two different cultivars or 2 different selections. And so it's not unlike a lot of our fruits in that regard. Some of the apples are that way, and some of the other large fruits. But there are a few varieties that are self-pollinated. They will produce fruit just by themselves. However, we're not talking a large plant here, and so a couple or even 3 or 4 plants might be good to have. Just if you like these are you're just going to have that much more production. These can be frozen, they can be dried, they can be canned, they can be made into preserves, just about anything you would normally use a blueberry, or how you would treat a blueberry. So,
do they require the same acid soil that blueberries do?
That's one of the reasons to grow honeyberries, is because they don't. They'll do just fine in a high pH. In fact, up to soil pHs of 8, which
oh my goodness.
Is extremely high. Yes. And they'll do quite low too, so they're not that particular. Probably would, like a lot of plants, prefer to have a nice layer of mulch over top and some uniform soil moisture. But other than that, they're not too particular.
So is this, in your mind, going to be a plant that replaces the aronia craze?
It sure could. Like aronia, it can be used to make wine and things like that, and of course it can be juiced. The aronia industry has pickers, and this is something that would have to be developed for these. The nice thing about honeyberries is they're getting harvested in June, a lot of times when strawberries are ripe, where the aronia waits until fall or late summer to be harvested. But that's probably the one big stumbling block right now. So.
So we will be building a demand for these particular plants just by talking about them.
Yes.
Do you anticipate this being something that you are geared up for? Are you going to have many of them available, or will it be something that this year people see it, want it, and then the production starts?
In our garden centers, we'll have some in larger plants that hopefully will entice some people to get started. I look forward to build over time and maybe someday outsell the blueberries that we sell. I think if you had a local producer producing it and selling it at the farmers markets, things like that, that would entice people to plant it in their own yard, because it's certainly very easy to grow, has very few disease or insect problems, and doesn't get too big. It can be
a landscape plant.
Yes.
A pretty landscape plant.
Yes. Blooms kind of a yellowish white flower early in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing local gardeners need to be concerned about. These Oregon State cultivars that have Japanese heritage tend to bloom a little bit later in the spring, so they're less likely to get caught by that late hard freeze that we oftentimes get here. So that's going to ensure a bigger crop, better crop later on.
Do we need to use bird netting over these?
Yes, you will.
As always,
the birds know a good thing when they see it, and so and that's another thing. I'm glad you brought that up. The berries are a little hard to know when they're ripe, and so when they're the dark blue, you start sampling them. They taste acidic. They're not ready yet, and probably the birds will be leaving them alone too. But when you start tasting a good sweet flavor to them, that's when you want to get the bird net out and be ready to have a picking party.
Pick away and go ahead and eat.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, we will look forward to trying them on campus as well, so we can talk about it, and hopefully we have all the people who want to grow something that is both beautiful and edible in their landscape can give this one a try.
Right, and it's fairly maintenance-free, no trimming necessary for the first 3 or 4 years, and then minimal trimming after that. So.
That's perfect too. All right, thanks, Randy.
You're very welcome.